You say to just use sweetener and water, or to use lemonade with sweetener?
Do not use lemonade. Do not use lemonade if you got a low sugar. Did you use lemonade in a case like this? No, you do not use lemonade. Until you use the lemonade after you get this down in the 20s. After you get the urea in the 20s, you can use some lemonade. But it's not a good idea, because there again, when you start using the lemonade, this sugar may drop to zero. And if your total sugar, carbohydrates, and your glucose drops to zero, you've got a patient that is seriously dead.
What's sweetening in the
Still, some sweeteners cause the patient's pancreas to flush more, and you don't know which one that is. You do not know which sweetener that is, so you have to tread easy by a test every hour, so that's why you need them in a retreat to handle this kind of a problem. Now, if the sugar is high, it's safe to bring them down with water until it gets to the range of misery. But then try to stop it there, but continue the minerals. So this is a problem that you need to keep in mind and to work toward. Yes? After you get it down to your urea down to 20, then use the lemonade and water. But till it gets down to 20 total, do not use the lemonade. Okay? You do not put a patient like this on a fast, honey. No, not unless you have a retreat. Do not try to change patterns with a body chemistry unless you have a retreat or the part where you can take care of them, where there's a nurse available or a doctor available 24 hours a day. Do not do it. Yes?
Is that rule about lemonade for anybody, any number, as long as urea is above 20, or only for this particular set of numbers?
It's for any range of numbers that is out of the perfect range. By the way, I ought to show you another range here in a moment to show you what ranges are safe to handle at home and what ones are not handled at home. You could do it by just imagining. I'll show you what ranges are safe to handle at home. And we will say 4.5 from 0.8 to 4.5, 710 over, well, I'll put 710, 710, I'll put it this way, 650 to 710, and 4, 5, 20 to, well, I'll just do it a little differently for both ranges. I'll just make one range here for both right here, and it doesn't matter which one is where. And this one, 5, 20 to 720. It doesn't matter which number. It can be either number. And I would say anything under 35, 0 to 35 C, 4M, and here we can say anything below a total of 26, anywhere from 6 to 26. It would be safe to handle anywhere in that range at home without changing ranges. But you get very far out of that range on any one number. Now, if you have all numbers in except one, it would be safe to try it. But if all the numbers are out beyond that range, then you better tread easy. A total of 26. anywhere from 6 to 26. It would be safe to handle anywhere in that range at home without changing ranges. But you get very far out of that range on any one number. Now, if you have all numbers in except one, it would be safe to try it. But if all the numbers are out beyond that range, then you better tread easy. Yeah, 6 to 26. Total, that's a total.
On the pH, that would be either the upper or?
Either the upper or lower, yes. To correctly write it would be, well, you couldn't correctly write it. It would, there's only one way to write it like this. It would be, yes.
The sugar, 0.8, would that be a Nichols problem?
Yes, a little, but you could possibly handle that one at home, provided you didn't have a high urea. Now, if you had that and even a 20 over here, you'd have a problem. In other words, you could kind of handle it, though. So these are ranges that you'll have to try to handle. Now, the bottom I have 0.8 to 4.5 in the sugar, and the pH would be either above or below 520 to 720. The salt from 0 to 35, 4M, and anywhere from 6 to 26. If you had just one number in those ranges or two, you could probably handle it without any problem at home. And the ranges, we could spend the rest of the year and writing, 8 hours a day, and writing numbers and stay in that range and still not have them all. The rest of the year, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and still not have all the numbers that's in that range. Now, that's how many there are. It's, if you should start when you're 12 years old, think of this, if you should start whenever you're 12 years old and write one range every minute for 10 hours a day, you would have to live about 3,600 years to write down the ranges. That's how long you'd have to live. And then you'd probably only have a part of them. Now, there's that many. Did you ever stop to think how long it would take to count out $1 million in $1 bills? Did you ever try to figure it out? Did you ever stop to think how old you would be if you lived 1,000,000 days? It would be about 3,750 years old. What's that? Well, I am. I am living that long. And in fact, that'll be still early in the morning of the first day. I don't plan to die. I would walk through the valley of the shadow, but there's no death. There's a walk through the valley of the shadow, but no death, yes?
If that real low sugar stays unstable, how much wine would you give in that 24-hour period?
Weight over 100 pounds, 4 ounces, under 100 pounds, probably 2. How much wine would you give if that number stayed below below 1, and you couldn't get it up? How much wine would you give? 100 pounds or more, 4 ounces, 100 pounds or less, 2 ounces. Now, here's a problem that you're going to run into sooner or later if you practice long enough, and that is the problem of pregnancy in which premature labor pains are coming about. A fetus uses 300 to 500% more oxygen than we do. And any time that this sugar on a mother that's pregnant gets below 1.2, unless she has a little overweight, let's just put on weight, quite a bit of it, labor pains can start and may start, and they will start at 0.08 if it stays that low long enough, because the fetus is dying and nature is getting ready to throw it out, and it's warning that the sugar is too low. And if it stays too low too long, you will have a retarded child, mentally retarded. So what you want to do at the first sign of labor pain is to keep this sugar, get this sugar up above, even up above 2.5 for a while, and then replace that sugar back in, and you can stop the labor pains quickly. Also, the quickest thing to bring it back is 4 ounces of ordinary wine will stop the labor pains. So, remember this. Sip it, rather slowly, 10 or 15 minutes, and the labor pains will stop. It is, I told you about in the first course, about the lady last August that came in labor pains, and the baby was born on Christmas Eve. Baby boy, perfectly healthy. I saw him the other day, and he's a beautiful specimen of humanity. Just doing real good, sitting alone, crawling now, and a perfect little boy. So, if she had not have gotten the right help at the right time, the baby would have been lost. Also, if there is a condition wherein that you desire, in order to save the mother's life, an abortion, drop that sugar level and it will abort by itself, a natural abortion. However, I refuse under any circumstance to interfere with nature if there's no reason for it. And the only time it would ever be done at all would be to save the mother's life. Yes? The question is, I do not understand the difference between sugar and oxygen. The connection between it is the sugar in the blood that takes oxygen to the brain. And if you've got too much sugar in the blood, from high blood sugar, it doesn't carry enough oxygen. And if you have too little sugar in the blood, it does not carry enough oxygen. It's got to be just right to perform normally. Yes. The fruit juices often have other carbohydrates in them, a double carbohydrate rather than a single one, and very quickly you will find out which fruit gives them the most sugar, rise in sugar. If fresh fruit is absolutely unavailable, then by all means use fruit juices, but try to use the fresh fruit, freshly squeezed, and grapes will work many times when every other grape juice fails, or grape juices fail, especially from fresh grapes. Frozen grape juice is better than the canned grape juice. It works better than the canned grape juice. So these are factors to please keep in mind and work diligently and remember. Memorize these notes, the main meat of these notes, and very quickly you will understand what's taking place, and you can comprehend, and to the point that you can begin to see the picture. Are there any questions about this to this point? Yes? Not necessarily. Could you raise the sugar content and increase the oxygen to the brain? You get the most oxygen to the brain whenever the sugar is between 1 and 2. And 1.5, you get the most oxygen to the brain, yes. Is this the reason diabetics suffer from oxygen? Yes. Yes. This is why diabetics die whenever the blood sugar reaches 11 to 13 on our scale. Yes. Yes?
You discussed testing in terms of retesting to distinguish a sugar pattern
You don't determine what is normal. You know what perfect is, and your idea is to bring their body chemistry back to perfect. Will I show them on the board what is normal for anyone's pattern? Well, the perfect numbers is the perfect pattern. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, someone's sugar level can fluctuate. How can you, from one test, can you determine from one test what procedure to follow, or can you test maybe 3 times before?
No. Would you come up and ask the class this question, please?
The procedure that we follow for treatment is predicated on one test, first test. Would it be more beneficial to take, for example, 3 tests over a period of 2 weeks to determine what ranges are normal for that patient, especially in terms of sugar?
You will find that a patient's chemistry stays within a range, whatever your first range is, providing they have not changed their dietary program in the last few days. Their body chemistry will stay within that range without changing. I've seen it as far as 6 months apart, and before they did anything or had another test, and their body chemistry was still in the same range. And I've seen it 6 years apart and still be in the same range, only worse. And if they get bad enough, they'll move to a range farther away. Yes?
Doctor, do we have anybody with honey water here? We need it here. Thank you, Doctor.
Good. If your blood sugar drops too low, it's too low, period. Now, yes?
What are some of the things that will affect the oxygen in the body as far as food goes?
What are some of the things that will affect the oxygen in the system as far as food goes? That is a variable. That has to be worked out with individual to individual. There's no one way to know. Let's come back to this theme of oxygen, though. At 1.5 urinary sugar over a 24-hour period, the body will take in more oxygen at that ratio than any other ratio, and any deviation from that is a slight loss in oxygen, even when the lungs are working perfectly. If the lungs are not working perfectly, it can even change that factor. Or if the calciums are too low in the diet, or if the person isn't drinking enough water, it can affect these ranges. So whenever you're dealing with 16,000 different kinds of foods, and you're dealing with 250,000 different species of foods, and you're dealing with 250,000 or more types of calcium, and you're dealing with 2,600 differentials, you see what you're up against. It's infinity on every angle. Now, the thing to do is to find out. You will find out if a person has not changed their body chemistry or put water in their sample. You will find out by the first test what range that they are in. And then start working on that range immediately. And then change your recommendations as often as necessary as to bring them back to perfect. The lower the energy rating, the more unstable the readings are. And the more often you will have to change. You might tell a person one day to do one thing, the next day to do something else, the next day to do back to do what they did the first day. So whatever it takes from day to day, change it accordingly. That's why people need to be in a retreat. And in a retreat, we do not give a person a diet sheet. And if you run a retreat, do not give a person a diet sheet until the day they leave, because you are changing their body chemistry habits by their diet day by day by day, and they do not know what you're doing. And you do whatever is necessary by diet or by certain things that you have to do, prune juice, or green drink, or try to do it all together with a diet. But occasionally you will find that lime water or calcium gluconate or Cal-2 or even vitamin D is necessary to get the calciums high enough. After about a week or 10 days, your calcium still stays down, you can't get it up. Then you'll begin to use a few vitamins or minerals in order to bring that calcium up. That is the first goal that you want to work toward in a person with a low calcium, is to bring it up. The second goal is to try to get, if the calcium is high, to get the colon clean and get the calcium down to where they're getting more energy out of their food, that calcium oxide at least, and give them heavy amounts of lactate, pickle juice, olive oil, and whatnot to bring their calciums downward. Olive oil also helps to bring the pH down as well. Generally, a pH that hangs too high all the time means that there's problems in the gallbladder. Not always, yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It sure does ruin the grapefruit juice, though. Yes, you can.
I didn't get the question.
Can you add grapefruit juice to the olive oil? I said, yes, you may, but it sure does ruin the taste of the grapefruit juice.
In this equation here, should we attempt to leave the blood sugar alone since it's at the perfect level, or should we try to... this equation on the board.
With the equation on the board, whenever the sugar is 1.5, should you attempt to bother the sugar? In this particular equation, regardless of what you do, it's going to have effect on the sugar, period. Anything you do, it's going to have effect, so plan on it dropping. Plan on the sugar level dropping and go accordingly, yes. Will you come up to the front, please?
I was asking when Dr. Eames said, of course, the lower the numbers or the farther the numbers got off, the more you had to watch the diet. Isn't it also true, though, that the lower the energy rating gets, the more drastic can be the change for improvement with the same numbers?
Yes, that is true. In other words, the lower the energy, the more drastic effect that any diet will have upon the body chemistry.
Doctor, in the first session, you said that the sugar, if it was 5.49, anything below that was considered low blood sugar if the other patterns weren't normal. So now I'm confused. If everything was normal, then 1.5 is perfect. But in my notes it says anything below 5.49 is considered low blood sugar.
That is true, but there's another rule in your notes that unless all numbers are perfect, no number is perfect.
That's what I said. So 1.5 isn't perfect unless all the other numbers are perfect. Is that right?
That is true. That is true. No number is perfect unless all numbers are perfect. You will find this. No number is perfect unless all numbers are perfect. Yes?
If in your first reading with a patient before you begin anything in diet, they're at the pre-diabetic range or the upper scale of low blood sugar, and it comes down accordingly when you begin a dietary regimen, pre-diabetics have to watch sugar. Now, do you get into a sweetener right away, or will we just stay with lemon juice?
If it's below 549, I start sweetener right away, immediately.
If it's 549 or below?
Or below, I start with sweetener immediately, if they're doing it at home. If they're doing it in a retreat, if they are going through withdrawal in a retreat, then we just test them enough times through the day to keep it where we want it, and then we put sweetener in when the sugar level drops to 120.
What if the original range was between 6 and 7, and then we started on a regimen and it started to come down? Then what's your approach?
We still let it drop to 120. At that point, we put sweetener in.
120.
Yes. No, anytime, any place, anywhere. But generally, if it was above 550 or above, we would not want to give them a diet to do at home. They must be in a retreat where they can or live close by or in your house or within a mile or two where they can be brought over or where you can get to them quickly. Then it's safe, but they should not drive a car under any circumstance. Please remember, no driving a car for the first 2 weeks that they're on a diet at home. Please, you can cause them to have a fatal accident. Yes?
You gave us ranges that were safe to handle at home. Now, any range outside this, I assume, should be in a retreat. Now, we got readings back or recommendations back. Will everybody outside of this range be recommended to go to a retreat? And if there are no retreats available, what do we do?
People that are outside of this range, or outside of this given range that I have given you, will be about 5% of all the tests that are run. About 5%. Now, as I said yesterday, you may run 2 or 3 days and not find one that needs to go in a retreat, but the next day you may find half of them or more that needs to be in. They come in waves. Now, if you can't get in the retreat, what should you do? Put them on mineral and keep them down to a safe range. That is the ones that should be in a retreat until they can go. But do not put them on lemonade and water if they should be. It's all right to put them on distilled water, but do not put them on lemonade if they are supposed to go to a retreat. If you do, they'll land, a lot of them will land straight in the hospital, and you'll be in hot water. I mean hot water. Yes?
If there is no picture, how soon do you recommend a retest?
About a week. If there's no picture, how soon would you recommend a retest? About a week.
Could you put on the board a no picture?
We put that on yesterday. Where were you?
Yes, I know, but is there a range of no pictures, or is that?
Yes, there is a range. I gave it to you yesterday.